Hi everyone, welcome back to Golden Papery, and we are in the second week of March. Yep, we are the second week of March of this year, and I am just thinking back to how it was just January the 1st a couple of weeks ago, and we are here. We are actively going through all of these days. It's been a long January, long February, and I'm hoping that March, while it is 31 days, feels very, very short. So, and please excuse the raspiness in my voice this week. I am dealing with some allergies and throat issues, and I did also have to speak at the Women's Summit this past Saturday, and that went amazing. It was really just nice connecting with other women, and the theme for that summit was flowing with the move of God. And so I was able to share my story about Dorian and just how I experienced and went through the motions during that time. So yeah, we are just taking it slow this week. I'm happy that I'm able to get back into recording. And also, it's been pretty quiet. I want to say it's been pretty quiet at work, although more projects are coming. And it's been more busy at my own personal company, which is like IT consulting. I'm finishing up a website this week. And then I'm also finishing up the social media for the Women's Summit, so that's finalized. So I will be working this week on sending out invoices because I need to get paid. But nothing stressful, nothing new. I'm happy that it's going to be like these projects are done and I can just get back to my full time. Personally, I have taken a break from working so much, and that is just because my body cannot physically work all the time. So, especially with, having my son with his condition, and he's still waking up in the middle of the night. So I am just always tired. Today I am running on fumes. So yes, bear with me as we get through these next couple of months. I am hoping that he is developing some new milestones, and that's all we're looking forward to. But this month it is going to be busy. We have spring break coming up next week, and I have decided to spend the week in South Texas. Um, I was just talking to some friends, and they said, well, technically, we do live in South Texas. Well, further South Texas to the border. So I will be in the RGV next week, and my family has spring break. So I hope to spend some time with the kiddos, all my nephews and nieces, and there is a livestock show. So that should be fun. And then I'm also filing my taxes next week. So I'm hoping that we don't run into any issues with that. I've got all my paperwork ready. And then also for the end of this month, we have some appointments. So Dorian has a lot of appointments: PT, OT, his case manager for ECI, and he also has his clinical trial visit this month. And I cannot be more excited because they just FDA approved the medication that he's currently on the clinical trial for ages 2 and up. He is doing the 0 to 2 cohort. And so, we are at the 1 year mark. At the 1 year mark, we find out whether he has been on a placebo or the medication. And I'm just hoping that regardless what the outcome is, I can still see that he has been growing. So I am grateful for that. And I'm also grateful that, by that visit, we will be getting now our full medication. If we were not on the medication, then we'll be receiving it now. And if we were, then we'll just continue. And, yeah, so that is this month. I ended up printing out another template from Planner Room, which is the monthly on 2 pages. So I'm just adding here. This tends to be more work related, but I do add in like PTO or vacations that I'm planning. And if I have to be very honest, next week I'll be working remote. I always work remote, but I'll be working more flexible next week. I'm trying to really minimize meetings next week because I'll be in the RGB. And then for this month, the events that I'm adding are two things. There's two reports that I do at work, which is a snapshot reporting. And then for the uh, events for this week, all I have really is the spring break and the clinical trial visits. I don't add in any of the, therapy appointments because that typically tends to happen at the daycare. I usually just add them on my weekly layout in case if, the therapist needs to call me, give me some updates, or they're able to just, let me know how he did. But this week we do have some new appointments with I guess like not pharmaceutical rep, a medical equipment rep. He will be assessing Dorian for like a gait trainer, so we'll see how that goes. And yeah, we are just moving along this year. For this month, we do have 3 cohorts going live for one of the new systems at work. And I'm just keeping track of it because I develop a lot of the Power BI reports for them. And I want to make sure that they have what they need. If there is something that is missing, well, then, I'll be their go-to person for that. But they are going live and it's been pretty quiet. So I'm going to assume that everything is working as it should. And if they need anything, well, then, they know who to call. But for this month, I am going to try my hardest to really re-record some of the planner Canva template videos that I had, I think, done like 2 years ago. I know I mentioned that in the other video, but this really is my goal for this month. I really want to just record a update video because there's so many amazing things that you can do with Canva. And I personally purchase a lot of my planner templates from Etsy and I download them, but I have also designed a lot of templates on Canva and put them in my A5 planner or my personal template. And usually it's been for dashboards, but I've also done some custom planner templates. So I really want to record that this month. For the habit tracking, and this is available on the monthly planner template by Planner Room. I am very lenient and flexible with it. If I forget to, mark it down, that's okay because I do a lot of my Garmin tracking. I use Garmin a lot for my health, so a lot of the hydration tracking, blood sugar tracking, all of that is tracked by Garmin. Since I have my Dexcom, I have different systems that already connect together. So if I ever wanted to see that data, I can see it. But for the actual like priorities and what I'm doing daily, I also use, just a typical Notepad or a Jira board, which is a project management system for work. And so I don't feel as required to add them on my monthly, but it's always nice to keep track of things on a physical paper. So, and then I realized that as I was doing this week's planner, I accidentally did last week. So March 2nd through March 8th, I did not plan because it was just a very hectic week. Kiddos were sick. So, we just left it like that. But that is this week's planner template that I wrote down. So you'll see me here scrap this paper, or not really scrap it, but I'll just leave it there. And I'm gonna just move forward with the March 9 through the 15th. So, yep, it is very normal to make mistakes, especially when you're feeling under the weather. So you'll see me do that shortly. And then I realized that I really love planning on my personal planner. So I've been using my cash binder and I take it to go with me everywhere. It's in my diaper bag, and it's, my diaper bag is my main bag. But I use this planner to add in my cash that I have available for the different envelopes. And also I do like a small daily planner, which I believe the template I got with the planner is a plan with B by on the Etsy, and I'll share that. But I did not plan for my personal this week. And that is just because I'm not going to the bank until tomorrow. So tonight, I will print out my template for the personal daily planning, add it in my binder, and then I'll also make up my little notes so that I can take out the cash that I need. But for this week, there are several meetings that I have. I had blocked my calendar for next week because I figured it's the last week of this cohort going live. And so this week I'm just leaving it open so that I can take on as many meetings I can before the spring break. But tomorrow I have a meeting at the school for my daughter. Then today we had our team meeting and the new Power BI. And then for Wednesday, I have also a new request. But Thursday is going to be wild. I have 4 meetings and they're all like, separated. It's all scarce. So I have one at 9, one at 10, one at 1:30, and then the last one at 3:30, which I thought crazy that we are going to be, you know, having meetings so separate. So I will have a busy Thursday, but other than that, everything is on track to complete by this week so that I can have a flexible next week, because I'll still be working, but it'll just be very focused projects that I really need to finish out. And more than likely, it'll be recruitment stuff that I have to work on because they are getting ready for their summer recruiting. Now, I'm also adding these highlighted sections on the top of each day, and that is just because I have something major going on for that day, and it's like a quick reminder of what I got to keep track of. For Monday, we have our second cohort going live for one of our divisions. And then Tuesday, Dorian has PT. And then also we have meds on Wednesday. Okay, apologies. I had to restart this recording here because my throat was giving out. But as I was saying, I like to put these highlights just so I can see some quick reminders on my day. And like I said, I don't add these on the monthly typically because I like to know as it's happening for that day. And this will give me a clear mindset if I have to leave my phone on or leave it on Do Not Disturb, so that I can get the updates that I need. But like I said, no big meetings this week other than just follow-ups for different projects. And I know that we are thinking about hiring a new position on one of our teammates, or I guess, same, different team, but we do kind of similar work. So that is also coming up. And I am not stressed out about it. I think that we have a good thing going on our team. and hopefully the new person that they hire on the, adjacent team will be something similar to what we do, and it'll be kind of like we're talking the same language. But I also am not keeping track of any meal planning this week. We do have my mother-in-law who is visiting this weekend, and we kind of just bought a whole bunch of different items, and my husband is the one that's planning all the meals. So it's a week off for me, but also, it's nice to know that he knows exactly what she loves to eat, and I get to take a break. So aside from that, I am going to add in the same habit trackers that I do on a weekly. That is my Jira board, my fresh desk tickets. We got tickets that we got to review, and I honestly forget all the time to check that system. So, I go in there and just confirm that like everything's good to go. There's no new tickets assigned to me. And then we do have a Power BI watcher dashboard and a monitoring system. So, yeah, lots of systems that we use at work, and so I'm always having to keep track of these different things. The habit tracking is just so useful for me because I just, every day, just did I do this thing? Okay, good, we move on to the next item. And especially for the habit tracking, I have added the mile walk or just working out, but I actually have been working out consistently on a daily basis. The only times that I take a break has been for appointments. Like if I have last week I had several dentist appointments for my kiddos. And so, those days I took a break, but I've been working out consistently. So I don't feel like I need to add that on this week's habit tracking because I'm getting it done. And like I said, the Garmin watch really tracks all of these things. And so if I ever wanted to go back and just confirm, what did that week look like, I can do that. I can tell you that I did close out one of my challenges. So on Garmin, I do a monthly goal, and for the challenges in February, I'm gonna just look at my past challenges here, but for February, active February challenge, that was 10 out of 20 activities, so that was good. And then I didn't do the steps for February, but I can tell you how much steps I did. And so usually you've seen that I've done, the goal is always 300,000 steps every month. That is a lot, and especially now that I'm not really doing, it was kind of cold and then it was rainy. And so, I try to keep that. But in the past month, which was February, well, if I just track February 10 up until today, 203,000 steps. So it's about 8,500 steps average daily, which is not bad. You always want to try to, go for 10,000. And some days I did have, 11,000, 12,000. So that helps. But I did not do the steps challenge for February. Now for March, the challenges that I will be doing are the current challenges that they have. So they have one for steps, they have one for walking. So for the steps, I'm joining that one, and it's 300,000 steps. Right now I have 70,000. So it's not bad, right? Because if you do 10,000 each day, you should get up to 300,000. But they also have a whole bunch of other challenges. So, I am going to look into that a little bit later this evening. My main one is just tracking the hydration because I've been drinking more water every day and I'm not tracking it as consistently as I should. But I can say that it's been about, 60 to 80 milliliters of water. So that's not bad. For this week, we get paid on Friday. Nope, Thursday. And I have my stickers from Kina Prince, which I love her stickers. They're just, kawaii, and they're beautiful. So I'm gonna add those on my planner for this week. I am gardening for this week, and that's another reason why on the weekends I'm gonna try to really step back and not take any more work projects, but we are starting the garden. I have this garden oasis project that I've been dreaming up in my head, and I put it on paper, and now it's coming to life. So we are building the pathway to the garden this week, and the garden boxes are there. My husband and I took 2 weekends ago to finish them. There are seeds planted in the garden boxes, and now I just need to go pick up some plants that I did not start already, right? Like the tomatoes, the peppers, those I need to just go and pick up and keep them alive enough to transplant them into the garden boxes by the end of this month. But my goal for the garden is to try to, really just combine all the veggies that I want to eat, but also that my family eats throughout the month, so that I can just, start relying on my own garden. And I will say that I've done this in the past. It has worked in the past, but I didn't have the time once I, gave birth, and we were dealing with all of Dorian's, Houston appointments. So I'm happy that we're getting back into it. And then we also picked up some chickens. So we have the chickens now that we are raising so that we can eventually have eggs again. I'm a little bit sad because we did have chickens before we decided to sell our property, but we gave them away thinking we were gonna sell. And obviously that plan did not work, and now we have to raise these chickens again. So it's always a bittersweet process because, they're super cute, but it really is a daily chore. It's not until they get older that it's kind of like, okay, you know, every other day that you go in and feed them and things like that. So um, that is basically all that is happening this week. Work has been quiet, like I said. I am trying to finish out a lot of projects that we have and just focus on them for next week. But we don't have any other major things going on other than, Houston this month and spring break this month. So we are going to see where, life takes us, but I'm very pleased still with this planner. I got this from Christina Loves Planning, the binder itself, and I just love how this planner just came together with all of the different, worksheets that I have, or not worksheets, but the planner sheets that I have, and it's been working beautifully. So if you are interested in getting started, I highly recommend that you check out Christina Loves Planning. She does like her own kit to kind of put your planner together, but also just look up on Instagram different inspirations. Cloth and Paper has a good starter, like, what are the things that you need. And so this binder has been coming together for years now. So, I go in there for my goals, for my workouts. Sometimes I don't fill things out, and that's okay. We have some days that are a little bit more busy than others. And I am just using this year to be a little bit more focused and reasonable with myself, that it doesn't have to be a chore, right? We really are just taking time to do things that are um, uncommitted, if you want to, use that word. But yeah, so this is this week's, y'all. I am so grateful that you are watching this, and yeah, we will see you next week when we do the third week of March, which is crazy. But yes, we will see you on next week when we do the third week of March. Talk to you later. Bye.